Nebraska Legislature's 2016 session wrapped up this month after passing several bills with agricultural importance. Among other issues, the state's unicameral addressed legislation on property tax relief, the Niobrara River in-stream flow compromise, and packer feeding in the hog industry. Nebraska Extension Ag and Water Law Specialist Dave Aiken joined us Thursday morning to discuss those three areas, starting with LB 176, which Dave says allows packer feeding in the state for the first time since the adoption of Initiative 300 in 1982.
This was the packer feeding bill. It was part of three bills that were introduced last year to try to really make a push in terms of livestock development. And this allows, well, it takes away the 30-year-old ban that prohibited packers from signing custom feeding contracts with producers.
Now, this was controversial, yes?
This was very controversial because opponents say that this will give packers too much control over hog prices, but supporters say that this will level the playing field between Nebraska and Iowa so that we'll be able to keep all of our swine processors in Nebraska, which is very important. Also, contract feeding can be a way for new producers to get started in agriculture, so kids going back to the farm, it could be a big deal for them.
How much different was it this year compared to what was introduced last session?
Well, last year, Senator Shills was one vote short, and what changed this year was that he offered amendments that offered contract protections that were not in the original bill, and also provided state oversight for of these contracts with the Department of Ag and the Attorney General's office. So I feel that really strengthened the bill, and they ended up having an extra vote, more than they needed to get it passed.
You feel those policy shifts were important?
I think so. I think those were important improvements to the bill, and make it better for the people that sign the contracts.
All right, tell me about the Niobrara River policy.
Well, this is another golden oldie. This goes back to at least to 1977 with the Save the Niobrara lawsuit that stopped and ultimately killed the Northern Dam project up on the Niobrara River. And so this is this is a conflict that's been going on for a long time. What happened this year? Well, this year they ratified an agreement between the Nebraska Public Power District and the Niobrara NRDs and the Game and Parks Commission to sell the hydropower right from the Spencer Hydro to the Game and Parks and the NRDs, and a change in the law was needed to do that, and so that's what the legislature did, was basically ratify that agreement.
Yeah, where does that agreement come from?
NPPD had started requiring surface water irrigators who are junior to the hydropower to sign an agreement to pay NPPD for the water. And most of them didn't want to do that, so we had several Nebraska Supreme Court opinions dealing with this. And ultimately, the Supreme Court said yes, the hydropower rights are valid, and the requirement that the irrigators pay for the water is valid. And so once there was no place to go in court, they said, okay, well, let's try to settle this thing. All right, let's talk about property tax relief as it relates to agriculture. Give me the overview. Okay, well, basically the legislature added $20 million a year to the state property tax credit program for agricultural land, and this will be effective next year. And this increases the tax credit for ag property owners by 10%, or it will increase it by 10% for next year. So what does that mean for the individual landowner? Well, if you've got your property tax statement, you can take a look, and there's a line on there that'll tell you what the property tax credit is. So you'll add 10% to that, and that would be what that'll give you a ballpark estimate, at least in terms of what it should mean. I went and looked at, what were the ag property taxes paid, and what would 20 million look like on that. And for 2015, the last year that we had numbers for, it worked out to about 1.7% reduction in terms of property tax payments for ag land. That 1.7%, it might not seem like a lot, but can you tell me, in the grand scheme of things, how important that is? Well, I think it's pretty important because the ag groups had to work pretty hard to get that 20 million, and everybody is scrapping for that money in the legislature. So to come up with it this time, it is really speaks well. In addition, this is a long-term project. I mean, it'd be wonderful if there was some sort of silver bullet that would, give us property tax relief. But if property taxes go down, sales and income taxes almost have to go up, and so it's kind of a zero-sum game there. And so I think that producers have to be patient, take the long view, and if you could do something like this every year or two, in 10 years you would have substantial property tax relief. So I think that's the way you have to approach it.